All right, y'all. What is going on? We are back with another Slate preview. This is our third week doing this. Myself, I'm Andrew Wade. I run Parlay Ole Bets, and we have Luke here as well. Luke is a capper within Parlay Ole Bets and has been on an absolute tear this month, man. How are you doing so far?
Doing great. Happy to be here. Happy to get another week in the books. Had an awesome Sunday last Sunday, so looking to build on it here this week.
Absolutely, man. You've been absolutely crushing it, both football and basketball. We have a big slate today, or big slate to break down, starting with tonight's game, which is actually kind of interesting. I felt like some of the Thursday night games hasn't had that many advantages or things to really take advantage of from a betting perspective. And last week, you did a great job. You had some great reads on that Ashton Genty look was just phenomenal. I'm curious to hear what you think about today's slate. We have the Bills versus the Texans. The Texans without CJ Stroud, Davis Mills is starting. The wide receiver group for the Bills is honestly kind of a mess. If you can figure out who's going to be starting, who's going to be playing, good for you. But Keon Coleman should be playing. As far as I know, I've seen some reports saying he's not, but as far as I know, there's lines listed for him. So the Bills are favored 5.5 on the road. The total is 44.5. We're also doing a new thing. We have the sheets up. This will just be an easy way for us to kind of go through each game. You can see just quickly at a high level what are some of the key metrics of each team. So today, Bills versus Texans. Luke, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So this is a tricky game for me. Thursday night, wacky things happen on Thursday. Texans are getting 5.5 at home. I would think it'd be higher, honestly. And with me saying that, you're probably thinking I'm about to bet into the Bills. I'm not. I'm going to pass the game from a spread perspective. Really feels like this could be a low scoring, sloppy game with a lot of defense from Houston. So I got a small play. I'm going Josh Allen under in rushing yards at 33.5. I think this is a game where he's really going to hopefully not want to extend himself too much, and coming off of his 6 touchdown performance last week, hoping the Texans can kind of hem him in, but it's a smaller play from me, so I don't have a ton on this game.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at this, there's the advantages of this game are the Texans running attack, and that's really it, right? I mean, outside of that, there's not a lot of offensive advantages in this game. So I think unders are definitely a spot to look at. I even took a touchdown parlay with an under in it because I could see this being a very low scoring, kind of a sloppy game here. When we look at the Bills versus Texans again, Bills are strong in the pass. Texans are also very strong defending the pass and the run. So you kind of look at James Cook, you think, is he going to be able to run the football very effectively? I personally don't think so. When I looked at this game, I like Jaden Higgins over 2.5 receptions, and that is less about the defense and more about just his targets. He is the second leading receiver in routes run and targets the last couple of games, getting a 2.5 line after having 7 targets the last 2 games with Davis Mills at quarterback. I just have to play it at this point. But the Bills are very much a run funnel defense, so you have to look at Woody Marks or Nick Chubb, and I have a little play on Woody Marks here, but I do have some concerns, as we talked about last week. Nick Chubb is a guy who I feel like this is the kind of game where they're going to need him, right? This is going to be a grinded out game, someone who can just go through the tackles and bang on the defense repeatedly. So I could see a 10 to 12 carry game for Nick Chubb here as well. Anything else you want to cover before we jump into the next game on the slate?
No, I had a small lean, the Texans team total under at 18.5. Not something I'm going to play, but if people want another play out there, that's the way I'd lean.
I love it. All right, jumping over. Next game on my list is the Steelers versus the Bears. Bears are favored 2.5 at home. The over/under is 45.5. Aaron Rodgers has a broken bone in his wrist, but tough guy. It sounds like he's going to be playing this game. Otherwise, no. Jalen Warren is also a bit banged up as well, but it sounds like he practiced today in some capacity. So those are the major injuries from a fantasy perspective. What are your quick leans on this game?
Yeah, so this one is one I'm probably going to bet into. I haven't placed this yet because I'm waiting on the Aaron Rodgers news, the Jalen Warren news. But the Steelers in contest, I could get them at 3.5. That's something I'll probably bet into. 2.5 right now on the market. You could get that at plus money at some places. That's another look I'd look at here too. It's a Tomlin spot going on the road as a dog. against the Bears team, who, frankly, in my opinion, has been getting lucky, truly isn't that good. Spot you might want to attack with the Bears might be some pass catchers with the Steelers' poor secondary, but this is one that I honestly see the Steelers pulling out the W, even if it is Mason Rudolph. So I'm going to wait for the injury news to see if I can pop that 3.5 when / if Rodgers is ruled out. And if it is Mason Rudolph, I will definitely be betting into the 3.5.
I love it. You mentioned, I'm going to play off that. I have a couple other thoughts, but the main thing is the receivers. And you mentioned playing some Bears receivers. Luther Burden is a guy I'm going to target if I can get a good line on him. We are seeing him finally overtake Alameda Zacchaeus, getting those slot snap routes. He had a 61.1% route share last week and 5 targets, all of them first read targets. So I like that here. Pittsburgh is a very heavy pass funnel team. You can even see here, obviously, a lot of pass yards, the worst in the league in terms of pass yards allowed, middle of the pack in terms of EPA versus pass. But the other lean I really like here is Rome Odunze receptions. He is coming off a bad week last week, but against teams that primarily play man coverage, he is averaging, I believe, 6.5 receptions versus teams who predominantly play man coverage. So that's really the area where I'm targeting here. The other thing I want to call out is the Bears rush defense has generally been pretty bad this year to this point. So if you get a Jaylen Warren healthy, you could look at a Jaylen Warren rushing yards. If Jaylen Warren's out, though, I kind of sneakily like Caleb Johnson. And I know I'm an Iowa fan. I got the Iowa hat on. But Kenneth Gainwell is not the guy who's going to give you 20 carries through the tackles. That is just not going to be his MO. And we saw actually over the last 2 weeks, Caleb Johnson had 7 carries to Kenneth Gainwell's 9, but 49 routes compared to 16 combined by Caleb and Jalen. I say Caleb because I just think his line is going to be incredibly low. Even if Jalen is out, people are going to be heavy on Kenneth Gainwell. So that's my look for this. If that news comes out positively for Caleb Johnson time, obviously Jaylen Warren being injured if that's the case. So the next game we got up is the Vikings versus the Packers, a division rivalry. It's kind of an interesting game, right? I think there's very strong defenses when you look at this game, and so it's kind of hard to pick your poison of what to target. You also have Josh Jacobs, who is banged up as well, limited in practice. Who knows if he is able to go? Obviously, that can change things, but we have Emmanuel Wilson as well as a running back that could be a good target there. As far as the Vikings go, they have J.J. McCarthy, which is essentially like having an injured quarterback. And so I'm curious what your thoughts are on this Vikings versus Packers game where they both have some pretty strong pass defenses.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of me looks back to last week as we were talking about the Bears Vikings, where I was like, man, this is just a tough game to handicap for me. The Vikings might just be a tough team for me to handicap because I look at this one again and I'm like, God, I lean Packers, I guess, but I'm not loving anything on either side with the 6.5. There isn't really a player on either offense that I really want to bet into here either. The only place I look would maybe be the total at 41.5 going under, where both offenses have just looked anemic. Green Bay can't get anything going, even though I think they got the players and the talent. And Minnesota, obviously, the J.J. McCarthy problem, they're seeing if he could get it together or not. So if you look anywhere, it'll be under the 41.5. That's just a lean from me, though.
I love it. The only thing I have a couple things I'm looking at, but I don't know if I'll pull the trigger on any of it at this point. The wide receiver group for Green Bay is incredibly difficult to handicap from a prop perspective because you truly just don't know who the heck's going to have the ball at any given point. When I look at this game, Matthew Golden is a guy who I think could have a decent game. The Vikings are allowing the 4th most targets to the slot. They also have they have a top 5 run funnel defense though, so they're kind of limiting. They have the most targets to slot, but they don't allow overall a lot of targets and expectations compared to pass versus rush. So not something I really like there. They also allow the 3rd most targets to tight ends. Last week though, Luke Musgrave with Tucker Kraft out actually got out snapped by John Fitzpatrick. In post-game press conference, Matt LaFleur said Luke Musgrave absolutely needs to play more snaps than whatever snaps he played in the second half yesterday. So if you trust Matt LaFleur, I anticipate Luke Musgrave being on the field a lot more. He has a plus money 2.5 reception line. I also like potentially a low Emmanuel Wilson line. Honestly, especially if Josh Jacobs plays, because I think you're going to get some value there. And I don't expect Josh Jacobs to be able to pound the rock for 20 times in this game. That's what I got for this game, though. We're going to jump over into what is the next game on the slate here. We have the Colts versus the Chiefs. And I think going into the season, if you saw this game on the schedule, you probably wouldn't think the records would be where they were for the Colts versus the Chiefs. Probably flipped. And yet here we are with the Chiefs coming off a loss at the Broncos, or to the Broncos in the Mile High City. What a great win for Denver. It was electric here. But now we get the Colts versus the Chiefs, and this is a big game, especially for the Chiefs, who really cannot afford to go and lose another game in a row here. So, what are your leans on this game, Colts versus Chiefs?
So yeah, this one is probably one that I will play off of Pittsburgh. I said if that doesn't pop back to 3.5, I probably won't play it. This would be where I go instead. Most likely will be the Colts plus the 3.5. So yeah, like you said, the Chiefs need a win, but the Colts, in my mind, this should be closer to a pick 'em. This is a team where on the field they've looked better than the Chiefs, and going into the year, all year, I've been like, I don't really trust the Colts. Funny that now I want to back them in a spot against the Chiefs, but yeah, getting the 3.5 hook is extremely important. Do not bet this at 3. Do not bet it at 2.5. You need the 3.5 here because there's a real version of this that the Chiefs win on a field goal. And that is probably the most common version of this, which is why the line is 3.5. So I will look at the 3.5. This is something I will maybe pull the trigger on. This will be a Sunday morning decision, though, from me between this and the Steelers.
I totally get it. As far as what I look at from props perspective, the one thing I want to call out here is I've been high on Alec Pierce all year. I have loved taking Alec Pierce lines. The only issue is where he is most effective is going to be at targeting those one high looks, and Kansas City plays a lot of two high looks. So Jonathan Downs as the main targets here for the Colts. So I played Jonathan Downs receiving line. I liked that going up here against the Chiefs, who allow a ton of targets to the slot receiver. I also kind of sneakily liked Jonathan Taylor as well. That was, but the 90-yard line is just a little bit too tough. I've seen the Chiefs play well defensively against the run. You saw that against the Broncos, although that seemed more of like a Sean Payton not wanting to trust RJ Harvey situation, but the Chiefs' rush defense looks better than what we've seen from an analytical perspective. When you pull up the analytics here, the rush defense, bottom 10 in EPA, bottom half in yards allowed, one of the worst stuff percentages. When you look at that, this says it should be a game where Jonathan Taylor should just absolutely destroy. I just feel a little weird after seeing them on film against the Broncos, taking Jonathan Taylor here. So personally, the only thing I really like here is Jonathan Downs. Again, going up against this too high look. On the Chiefs side, it's really tough. The Colts play a ton of man defense, especially with the addition of Sauce Gardner. They've increased their man percentage from 27.9% to 41% with the addition of Sauce Gardner. And I saw something on X the other day saying the biggest issue with this Chiefs offense has been that Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy have actually struggled to separate against man coverage. Well, now you're getting one of the best man coverage defenders in the league and a team that plays a ton of man. So that'll be really interesting to me to see what happens here. Moving on, we do have another game. Obviously, the Patriots versus the Bengals. Jamar Chase is out of this game, and that is absolutely huge. I cannot believe they opened up a T. Higgins line at 5.5 receptions. If Joe Flacco is the quarterback, and that is an if, because I know he's been banged up, but also Burrow has been practicing. I don't think he'll play this week, but I guess there's theoretically a chance he could still play this week. T. Higgins 5.5 line, though, with Joe Flacco, he's going to get peppered the ball almost every single play. I know that you see like Andre Isavai, his line has gone up to 3.5 receptions across the board. All the receiving lines have gone up for the Bengals. But man, when you look at how Joe Flacco plays the game, it's basically the number one receiver. He's targeted him every single time. T. Higgins is phenomenal, especially against man coverage, which the Patriots play a ton. What are your thoughts on this game, though?
Yeah, so I just did a quick Google while you were talking about it. Joe Burrow practiced in full today for the second day in a row. This is Thursday. So Joe Burrow's practiced in full Thursday and Wednesday. That does lead me to believe that Joe Burrow is playing. So, with that information, I have not made this bet yet. I will be on the Bengals plus 6.5 with Joe Burrow being in. There's no way you can get me off this with this news. Yeah, with Joe Burrow playing, this line will probably drop as soon as he's active to about a 3.5, 4.5, the Patriots way in my mind. So I'm going to try to get ahead of it with the plus 6.5. This could easily burn me if Joe Flacco steps in. This line is going to go to 7.5, 8.5. So yeah, but even so, let's go either way. Let's break this down from that perspective. I think the Bengals can hang in this game. The Patriots are on a run right now of winning straight up, where going into this game, it doesn't bode well for teams, especially against the spread. I want to say when teams are on a 7-game win streak going into this, they are 18-32 against the spread. So that's what the Patriots are staring down the barrel of against a solid Bengals offense. This team can put up points. The Bengals looked awful against the Steelers last week. So I'm kind of banking on some positive regression from this offense. And if this defense can just hold the Patriots to under 28, this will be a no sweat cover.
Yeah, I love it. And a -6 line on the road is incredibly difficult. No matter who the teams are, but you get -6 on the road, especially against a Joe Burrow offense. That is not an easy thing to cover. You look at here on the sheet, rushing yards are going to be very tough to come by for Chase Brown. I like a Chase Brown under here. When you look on the other side, passing is really the place where the Bengals are going to have to kind of hit this. And the Patriots do have a solid pass funnel defense. So that's where I'm really playing at the T. Higgins. I think with Joe Burrow there, anytime you get a Joe Burrow in there, you have a chance to win the game. -6 is really tough. We're going to jump over to the Jets versus the Ravens here. And that is quite an interesting game because Justin Fields is no longer the starting quarterback. And honestly, everyone should be thankful for that because now we can potentially see some receiving lines back in play. I bet on AD Mitchell last week and it burnt me so bad. I'm back on him this week. Never wrong, just early. But we got the Jets versus the Ravens and what figures to be a very positive game script for the Ravens. They are favored 13.5 at home. So, what are your thoughts on the Jets versus the Ravens with Tyrod Taylor here at quarterback?
I mean, gosh, what a dumpster fire for the Jets. I could really only lean to Baltimore, but here's kind of what's holding me up with Baltimore is I feel that I haven't seen enough explosion out of their offense to really lay 13.5 with them, where since Lamar's been hurt, he's just come back and looked different. This is one of those classic games where I'm not the biggest Lamar guy. I'm not a Lamar fan, but he'll go out there and score 5 touchdowns, beat up on the bad team. This is the classic Lamar MVP game where he goes out, beats up the bad team, scores 5 touchdowns, and everyone's like, oh, he's the best quarterback in the league. So that is why I have to lean to the Ravens laying the 13.5. This won't be a bet I have. Something that sparked my interest, though, to give out maybe something I'll bet into is Mason Taylor's reception line, like you were saying with Jets pass catchers in this game. It's at 4.5. It's a high line, but you could get plus money to the over. And the last time Tyrod played and started, he did have a thing for targeting Mason Taylor. So that might be something to look into as, you get into Sunday, you need some last minute plays. You want something on this game. I'd look at Mason Taylor.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull the Mason Taylor proper quick because that was also an area that I was targeting as well. But I had to pick. I don't like to target multiple guys in the same game if I can avoid it, especially if it's the Jets. That always just scares the living hell out of me. His receiving yard line is 33.5. That's so low, and his reception line is 4.5. To your point, um, that's a tough one. I completely agree, though. I think Mason Taylor is a guy that you could target here. I'm taking AD Mitchell again. Again, never wrong, just early. His receiving line got bumped up a bit, I'm sure, because of how many targets he got and the depth of those targets. But at 20, I think I got him at 24.5 receiving yards. I mean, if he just catches the ball, and he had 3 drops last game, if he just catches the ball, he cashes that one immediately. He could cash a whole ladder in one play. So I like AD Mitchell here. Another person I'm targeting, and to your point, I want to call out the fact that this is kind of a weird game. This is kind of a weird game in general. If the Ravens favored by 13.5, I don't think they are a minus 13.5 team. And I know the Jets have been bad, but their defense hasn't been all that bad, and they can really muck up a game pretty easily. Couple things I looked at though. I like Brees Hall under rushing yards. I think it's been tough. I've been playing that the last couple of weeks because he's been going up against some really strong rush defenses. He actually covered one week, and honestly, he probably should have covered last week. They just got down and they had to go to entirely pass heavy offense. The Ravens' rush defense, though, is pretty strong, and it's especially strong against Brees Hall and his concept. I believe it's a man concept running scheme that he's running generally. So that is going to be a tough defense to go up against. So I like Brees Hall's under. I like obviously AD Mitchell, and then another person to keep a watch on is DeAndre Hopkins. With the last 2 weeks, he's seen an increase of targets from 2.2 to 4, and Jim Harbaugh specifically mentioned needing to get DeAndre Hopkins involved in his press conference this week. The Jets continue to play a lot of man. I think this could be a really good chance for DeAndre Hopkins, especially in a close game where they will potentially need to throw the ball if you think it's going to be under that 13.5 threshold. So that's what I got for this game. Moving on to the next game, we got the Seahawks versus the Titans, and this should be disgusting. I'm not playing anything in this game. I'm just going to turn it over to you because this is just an absolutely disgusting game.
Well, great. I will take over because this is a game I am most bet into so far on Sunday. So yeah, I am on the Seahawks minus 12.5. About an hour ago, that popped at plus 100, the minus 12.5. This is already back up to minus 13.5 Seahawks at minus 104 on FanDuel. It'll keep going. But yeah, so about an hour ago, I gave out to the Discord minus 12.5 at plus 100 on the Seahawks. And this is going to be an ugly game. I totally agree with you. And an ugly game where the Seahawks are going to destroy the Titans. This is a get-right game after a ugly loss. Darnold threw 4 interceptions. He's going to go out there this game. He's going to throw 4 touchdowns. This is going to be an absolute massacre in Tennessee. Sorry. And I don't think the Titans have any of the weapons to stop them or put up points on a Seattle defense that absolutely does not leak. I mean, you saw it last week. If you watch that Seahawks-Rams game, which unfortunately I had the Rams minus 2.5, won by 2. But yeah, if you watch that game, Stafford really couldn't get anything going. He still had a solid line. They couldn't get a ton going on the ground either. It's such a stout defense, so well coached. And Seattle on the road, it has been phenomenal this season. Overall, they're 8-2 ATS, so looking ahead to 9-2. And as well as that, I also have Rashid Shaheed over 20.5, longest reception in this game. Thinking they want to get him involved. What's his go-to thing? Catch a long one down the field. Along with that, I will have Rashid Shaheed anytime touchdown at plus 262.
I love it. I just want to call out simply the fact that Calvin Ridley is out. Elick is not playing. Elick Ayomanar. I cannot say his last name, but he has been out of practice. You're getting a very, very, very small wide receiver group. Van Jefferson, Shamir Dyke, Mason Kinsey. There will be value in those reception lines, but the chance of them having catchable targets has been literally my pain this entire season. I have probably spent 10 units on Titans wide receivers this year, and I have gotten absolutely nothing back despite getting those targets going up against a very stiff Seahawks defense, to your point. So I love the look you have there. Just not a lot to like here. Even honestly, on the Seahawks offensive side, I love the Shaheed look, but they just target JSN so freaking much, and they have a running back timeshare between Kenneth and Zach. It's difficult to play offensive props for them either.
Well, to go with your Titans receiver standpoint, with them, with my projection at least, not being on the field a lot, it's going to be hard for anyone to even hit their overs with constant 3-and-out short drives and things along those lines, which, I mean, the non-catchable targets is such a factor there. But then if you're just not on the field enough and extending drives and getting those opportunities, how are you ever going to hit an over?
100% agree. Yeah, it's just a very difficult game if you want overs, but that's I think where the unders can look at if you'd like that as well. Moving on to the Giants versus Lions, and man, there are a lot of big spreads, which I think could be a lot of opportunity depending on how risky you want to be. But we got the Giants versus the Lions. The Lions -10 at home versus the Giants. The Giants looks like Jackson Dart is close to clearing concussion protocol, and I'll be honest, I personally like that more for the Lions than if Jameis Winston can play. I just do not believe Jackson Dart could be a good quarterback. I think there's been a little bit too much hype on Jackson Dart to this point. He has been a great runner, but a pretty bad thrower, all things considered. A lot of luck on his side. So how do you cap this -10 game for the Lions? Over under is 49.5.
Well, I totally agree with you. And I love the point that you made with Jackson Dart, where if Jackson Dart plays, I do agree where it's better for the Lions. He's younger, inexperienced, where Jameis Winston, he can lose by 35, but he could also win. So yeah, I think there's a lot less variance there. But either way, I'm going to be betting in the Lions minus the 10.5. So the reason I haven't bet this, and I guarantee everyone I will bet the Lions minus 10.5, is I believe that money will come in on the Giants and we will get a better number on the Lions minus 10.5 come closer to Sunday. So that's the reason I haven't bet it, where right now you can find plus money. I'm hoping to get maybe plus 110 on minus 10.5, which in the long run, that'll make a difference. So that's the reason I'm holding off for now, but I love the Lions here. So coming off of a loss against the spread, Jared Goff and Dan Campbell are 8-0. 8-0 ATS when they are favored by double digits coming off of a loss. No reason it doesn't continue here. The Giants are awful. This team's quitting on itself. This is a get-right spot for the Lions. The team total's at 30.5. Just bet the over on the Lions team total. I'm not going to personally. They're going to put up 50 in this game. They're going to do whatever they want offensively. And in order to reflect that, I have another prop that I bet, and that's David Montgomery anytime touchdown. I think they want to get him rolling back involved in the offense again. Perfect time to do it when you're blowing out the Giants. I truly think he'll get in the end zone here, no problem.
I love that entire read. I think it's important to call out that Dan Campbell is now calling the plays for the Lions and has been for the last 2 weeks, and that has seen an uptick in several areas. David Montgomery is a guy he really wants to get involved, but also Jameson Williams is another guy who has been heavily involved the last couple of weeks after basically being non-existent for most of the season. This also, including the fact that Laporta is out, is another reason to like Jameson Williams here. I like Montgomery. I like Gibbs. I honestly could see them both hitting their rushing yards line, especially against a weak rush defense the Giants have. They rank last in EPA versus rush and overall yards allowed, stuff percentage, Yakko yards. I mean, you name it, the Giants pretty much suck at defending the run. So I like Gibbs, Montgomery here. But the thing I love the most about the Lions is that they just keep going. I mean, they could be up 21 and they're going to still keep slinging the ball around. And Jameson Williams has a receiving yard line of 59.5. He could hit that in one play. I love this matchup going up against man. That is where Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams do really well against. They have the highest yard per route run against any of the defense's primary coverage of all wide aligned receivers and slot receivers. So really, really good matchups there. On the flip side, this is a big if Jameis Winston starts and Darius Slayton does not, I like Isaiah Hodgins. I think we're going to get a low line there. Performed really well last week, had 6 targets compared to Jalen Hyatt's 4. Moving on to the Jags versus the Cardinals, a game where there are quite a few injuries here. From everything I hear, it sounds like Brian Thomas Jr. should play. That I think just muddies up the water of receivers here. We have the Cardinals who do not have Marvin Harrison Jr. I don't even know how there was a question of whether or not he was going to play this week after an appendectomy, but he's officially been ruled out, which makes sense. No Zay Jones, no Trey Benson. I know Amari was injured last week, so there's always some concern there. I don't think he's planning on playing this week, but I'll need to double check that. And then again, back to the Jaguars piece, you have no Travis Hunter, and you have Travis Etienne, who was was a limited participant in practice this week, and then Bayshawn Tootin, who also hurt himself last week. So a lot of various injuries kind of going on that could provide some decent opportunities here. How do you handicap the Jaguars versus the Cardinals?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Both teams are so banged up here, so banged up. There's so much opportunity if you could pick the right guy. I mean, people are going to make plays in this game. I also believe on the Cardinals side, I think Trey Benson will be back. I know he's been practicing, so I don't know for sure or not. But either way, that's not going to hold me off of the play here, which is the Cardinals plus 2.5. I know. You're like, man, how can you bet into the Cardinals? How can you bet into the Cardinals? I'm less betting into the Cardinals, more fading the Jaguars, where coming off this huge win against the Chargers, I mean, they handled their business, uh, bringing LA to town. Yeah, I think this is an insane letdown spot for the Jaguars. I'm taking the 2.5 personally with the Cardinals. Don't be afraid to play the money line either with the Cardinals. I mean, there's a real way that this game just gets messy, and the 2.5 matters a lot. Where someone misses a 2-point conversion to win, something like that. It's Cardinals Jaguars. At that, there's going to be plays where I'm pulling my hair out in this game. But yeah, I think getting the 2.5 here against a Jaguars team where I don't think they're a 6-4 team, and honestly, the Cardinals are a lot better than a 3-win team too. Where there have been so many games coming down to one possession where if just one or two plays go the other way, they're a 4 or 5 win team. And then we're looking at them completely differently. I think this is lined as more of a Jaguars should handle business against the Cardinals. And I don't think that's the case, which is what brings me to betting on the Cardinals.
I, I, you've done really well in these weird spots, man. I actually don't hate the analysis at all. It makes sense to me. I think the Jaguars are a little bit overrated, and I think the Cardinals are a little bit underrated. They do have a passing attack. I mean, the Cardinals are throwing the ball a ton right now, which makes sense because they don't have any running backs. I did look it up. Amari is out, so you basically have Michael Carter, Bam Knight, Trey Benson did have his practice window opened, but I'd imagine, yeah. So 21 day practice window will open. He's on the practice field today. That was yesterday, and they said we'll take it day by day. And looking at how Jonathan Gannon approaches these things, I could see them holding him off a week just to make sure he's perfectly healthy. What I look at here is the fact that Michael Wilson had a Jamar Chase game last week, having nearly 20 targets, I think 11 or 12 or something ridiculous in receptions. That is something I would like to target. He had a 4.5 reception line, which I thought was bizarre, but I really like Greg Dortch here as well. 6 targets, a couple receptions. The Jags defense is honestly not that strong passing wise. I know it looks good here on the paper, 7th ranked pass EPA, but they don't have Travis Hunter. They've been struggling quite a bit here. I also really like one of the running backs. I would prefer that Bayshawn Tootin plays and Travis Etienne doesn't, and I will absolutely hammer a Tootin line. But if Etienne does, I think we're going to get a low Tootin line, and I think that's another spot to hammer some value there with Tootin. You just have the issue of kind of that timeshare of running back. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. It'll be interesting to see whether or not Brian Thomas plays. There's always value in one of those receivers, whether it's Jacoby Myers or whether it's Parker Washington as well here. The Jaguars do have the number one pass funnel defense, which is basically asking the Cardinals to throw the ball another 50 freaking times, which again is a good opportunity for a Greg Dortch, a Trey McBride, or a Michael Wilson. So last thing I want to know here, with Amari out last week, we saw Michael Carter get a 71% snap share and Bam Knight got a 29% snap share. So keep that in mind if you are doing anything there. And it sounds like you have another thing to add here.
I do. I forgot something on this. I got too caught up in betting the Cardinals that I do really like a player prop on the Jaguars side. And I will be betting into this as well. Trevor Lawrence over 211.5 passing yards. I know all the Jags receivers are hurt. This just feels way too low for Trevor Lawrence. Guy I would more line at 220, 222.5, and more in that range. So yeah, give me him at 211. I'm seeing this at minus 120. So I don't know if I'll bet into it here. I might be more up at 212, something like that. But yeah, I'm liking where Trevor Lawrence is at with his over in passing yards.
Yeah, this is a really nice correlated play, I think, as well. When if you're betting into the Cardinals, you're expecting this to be either a neutral game script or a negative game script then for the Jaguars, which will lead to more passing as well. The pass defense of the Cardinals, as you can see here, bottom 10 in pretty much every single major category. And then last week, one of the things that Liam Cohen mentioned was we need to let Trevor Lawrence let it fly. Last week they just were up so much it didn't really matter. They just ran the ball. But this could be a week where, to your point, I really like that look a lot of the 211 yards. Now we're going to move on to the Browns versus the Raiders, and it is Shador Sanders time. And I'm I'm torn on how to bet into this game because on one hand you have to look at, do you think Shador Sanders can improve off his 4-16 performance last week being thrusted into that role, or is he as bad as he looked? I mean, that's really you make a play on that, and then the rest of the game kind of tells itself, right? But what do you think about this game? And I'm gonna pull up the spread real quick. It looks like the Raiders are favored by 4. The over/under, I believe, is the lowest of the week, 36.5 here. Both these teams absolutely disgusting. What are your thoughts?
Yep. As it should be, a low total of 36.5. Both offenses are just terrible. I don't really see how the Browns move the ball here. You could get a 3.5, by the way, if you are wanting to bet into the Raiders, which is where I would lean, is them laying the 3.5. It's widely available on most books. The only play I've looked at in this game, and it keeps going up, so I haven't bet it again, is Jerry Judy under receiving yards. This is currently at 33.5 with plus money to the under, which normally I'd be all over that right away. But I mean, from what I'm seeing, this opened at 31.5 today. It's up to 33. If people keep betting the over on Jerry Judy, I'll let it go as high as they want. I'm probably going to take the under on Jerry Judy receiving yards. I don't really think Shador could execute a game plan where it forces the ball in the Judy's hands. And if I'm the Raiders, you take away Jerry Judy, if you take away something in the pass game. This should be a Quinshon Judkins game, though. So don't be afraid to really bet on Judkins. I'd be nervous on Genty. I don't know. It's a disgusting game. Save your
I,
money for other games.
Yes, I completely agree. I do agree with you. Like if I had a lean, I would say Judkins over, Genty under. The Browns rush defense is just so strong, but the Genty look at, I think it's like 57 yards. Just it's too low for me to bite a chunk off that apple where I think the Raiders could be playing with a lead because you're playing Shador Sanders. A couple other things I wanted to call out here with the Raiders. They played 12 and 13 personnel 80% of the time last week, which is insane. And they were throwing out of that personnel a ton. So you could look at like a Michael Mayer look as well for receptions. The look that I like though is actually Trey Tucker, only because we got a 2.5 reception line. And this is a really strong Browns defense, but they give so many designed looks to Trey Tucker, a lot of quick screen passes, a lot of quick slants. I love Trey Tucker at 2.5 receptions here. You could also look at Tyler Lockett. I've generally played slot receivers against the Browns, although they tighten that up a little bit here. But that's kind of where I'm looking at. Again, to your point, save your money. This is not the game to bet on. There's other games, and the next game is actually one that I'm very interested in betting on, and I have quite a few units on it already, and I'm going to have a lot more. It is Devon Veal season, and the Saints versus the Falcons. I swear to God, if this doesn't work out again, I'm going to be so pissed. Everything says he should have a breakout performance. The total is 39.5. The spread is New Orleans 2.5. What do you take on this game before I go on a 3-minute rant about Devon Veal?
Well, if it makes you feel any better, let's make it a best bet. I'm on Devon Veal as well, over 2.5 receptions.
Let's do
That's
it.
that. That's all I got really with this. I mean, how can you not look to Bijan? What other way do the Falcons have of winning this game? But this is exactly one of those games, exactly like I talked about with Jaguars Cardinals, where it's just there's going to be some weird plays happening in this game where you're watching red zone or something, and you're like, how? There's going to be strip sacks. There's going to be pick sixes that Oh gosh, yeah. That's why I don't have a side here. I don't even have a lean. I guess maybe the Falcons because they're probably the better team, and who are the Saints to be a favorite? So I guess I lean the Falcons. But yeah, take the 1.5 because it could legitimately matter in this game.
I completely agree. A couple things I want to call out here. Michael Penix is out. Kirk Cousins is in. So you have more of a statue there. Drake London is out, which in theory should mean Darnell Mooney. He has 14 targets over the last 2 games, but he is not bringing those in with any sort of effectiveness. Raheem Morris mentioned having to lean on the run game more with Kirk in the game. And this is a solid rush matchup, though, to your point. I think Bijan Robinson, I like uh, Tyson Algier, like I think those are both good opportunities, especially in Algier line if you expect them to be potentially playing with the lead here. The Falcons defense on the flip side has a seventh highest run funnel rate, which means they're generally trying to push people into running the ball, but they're also shutting it down as well. So I'm not really a big fan of Alvin Kamara here or Devin Neal. But I want to talk about Devon Beal week 10, he ran 100% of the available routes. That was more than Chris Olave. That was more than Juwan Johnson. I watched every single route he ran this week. I was like, please, something tell me I shouldn't bet on him. And then I watched every single target he had. He had 3 targets in that game. All 3 of those targets were 15 to 25 yards. They were designed targets. Honestly, they were an inch away from catching, right? He caught one of the balls, but couldn't get the foot in. Another ball was a little bit overthrown. All 3 of those, though, were catchable targets. If he catches those 3 targets, he's hitting 65, 70 receiving yards like that. They just got rid of Brandon Cooks. Not a huge loss, honestly. He wasn't doing a lot in that offense. But again, they said Devon Beal certainly played a lot of snaps this past game. He'll continue to do that moving forward. Opportunities will naturally come his way. At some point, they actually have to go his way, right? I mean, at some point, they have to throw him the freaking football. But I like the receiving yards. I like the ladder, even at 3 targets. Again, he brings those 3 targets in. He has 60 receiving yards. He's already climbed half the ladder. I think this is a breakout game. I am going to be so pissed if he doesn't hit at least his base here. I also sneakily like Daryl Hodge when Drake London was out earlier this season. Also, the same time Michael Penix is out, we saw Daryl Hodge get 8 targets. He's getting a receiving line under 20 yards. I'm very interested. I haven't seen his reception line pop yet, but that is another area that I am targeting as well. We're going to jump over into the Eagles versus the Cowboys. This should be a pretty good game. Very excited to watch this game. Just in general, I hope it's an offensive explosion because honestly, these defenses are not that great. The total is 47.5. Philly is favored by 3.5 on the road versus Dallas. That Dallas offense is honestly insane. When you have a CD Lamb and George Pickens, and then oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank on Ferguson, Jake Ferguson. I
Jake.
couldn't first name. What are your thoughts on this game, though? Do you have any leans?
Yeah, so this was one when I originally looked at the slate. I'm like, whoa, Philadelphia. Obvious. It should be an easy bet. Everyone's all over the Cowboys. People have been betting the Cowboys down. It's now 3.5. You can find a 2.5 at some places with the Eagles. That's keeping me off this game from a spread perspective because I'm like, I'm missing something. I don't know why everyone loves the Cowboys in this game, but there's definitely something I'm missing here because, yeah, the money is just coming in heavy on the Cowboys. So that this opened and originally in contests, you get some of them, you can still get it at 4.5. And yeah, on the market, you can get Eagles all the way down at 2.5. So that's crazy to me. But so I guess I have a lean to the Eagles at -2.5, especially at -2.5. And yeah, a lean. I mean, you got to look to Saquon over rushing against the awful Cowboys rush defense. Line 75.5 yards. I mean, gosh, last year Saquon had 76 yards in every game he played, pretty much. So how do you not look at Saquon? That's something I'll look into, but I haven't betted in this game at all.
Yeah, the only thing I really like here is I love the fact that the Cowboys play a ton of zone. They have the third worst passing defense according to EPA versus pass, and they play the fifth most zone in the league, primarily cover 2, cover 3. When Eagles play a zone team, you target Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. When they play a man team, you target AJ Brown. That has pretty much been my play the entire year. The Cowboys are allowing the fifth most targets to inline receivers. I am taking Dallas Goedert at 32.5 receiving yards. That's going to be my play here. I think either CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens could produce a huge game in this game. One of them is going to get Quinyon Mitchell, I imagine, is CD. But Pickens has been on a tear lately, 7, 6, 9 catches last 3 games. One of those guys is going to go off this week. I just can't figure out which one. But Dallas Goedert is my favorite play from this game this week. Moving into the last game of Sunday, we have the Buccaneers versus the Rams. A couple different injuries here. Bucky Irving is trending to play in this game, which only makes this running back room even more difficult to cap, as Sean Tucker has been doing pretty well as of late. We also have Tyler Higbee is now on IR, and for a team that plays a lot of 2 and 3 tight end sets, that means you're going to see a lot more Colby Parkinson, a lot more Terrence Ferguson for the Rams. The Rams are really freaking good, though, man. I mean, this is going to be a tough game for the Bucs. The Rams are favored by 7 at home. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, this is another one similar to the last one where when I originally looked at the slate, I'm like, whoa, why am I not betting Tampa Bay getting 6.5? That is a lot. Yeah, you can find Tampa Bay +7 now. So if you want to bet Tampa Bay, hold off till Sunday as everyone is betting in on the Rams at -6.5. I don't love the Rams to cover big spreads, but yeah, this is another one where I hear people betting in the Rams, and it's holding me off the Bucks. Where this is another one where I feel like there's something I'm not seeing. There's something that it's not clicking for me with this game and Sunday night, where it feels like it should be a close, good game, but spread 6.5. I got nothing here yet.
Yeah, honestly, this might be just a stay away game. I might play the boost and call it a day here. It's tough when you look at how I mean, maybe the tight ends, but when you look at these defenses, both defenses are very strong, and I'll put that up on the screen here. Both defenses are very strong. Tampa Bay's rush defense is very strong. The Rams' rush defense is very strong as well. Pass defense, the Rams very strong. I think the thing I struggle with here is like you get a Puka Nakua who gets a very high line because he's Puka Nakua. If you have to target anything, maybe an under here. He's seeing 3 fewer targets per game in the last 4 games, as the Rams have put a heavy emphasis on playing 12 and 13 personnel. He hasn't seen higher than a 67% snap share in that time period as well. So something to keep in mind there. Honestly, though, if I had to play anything, it would be a tight end. Probably Terrence Ferguson. Colby Parkinson gets a lot more love because he gets more snaps, but Terrence Ferguson is running the exact same route share, which means Colby is on for run blocking downs and Terrence is in solely to catch the damn football. So I like that maybe as a look here, but I'm probably just playing some boost here. I'm not a big fan of this game purely from a prop perspective. And as we usually do, I have not capped the Monday game. I generally do all my research and prep Tuesday, Wednesday, and I'm so exhausted from that I'm like, I can't touch the Monday game until like Saturday. What are your thoughts on the Monday night football game? We have the Panthers versus the 49ers, the 6-5 Carolina Panthers versus
Crazy.
the 49ers, which is insane, by the way. The 49ers are favored by 7. The over-under is 49.5. What are your thoughts on this game before we wrap up?
Yeah, favored by 7 is a good number. I could see the Niners running away with this thing. I have nothing down on this game yet. One thing that I found interesting though is Bryce Young's passing yardage line is all the way down at 204. So Vegas is kind of telling you this is a letdown spot for Bryce Young against the Niners team who really can't stop anything. So I found that weird. So if you think Bryce Young can string them together, 204.5 is a great line for you to take the over. Personally, I'm not going to bet into that. Just wanted to call it out for people if, that's something you like, because I know some people like those angles.
Absolutely, man. Well, that's all we have for the NFL slate. That is our full show. We're a little bit over. I think trying to keep that at that 45. And we got to the 49 mark, which is great. Luke, you have been absolutely crushing it in the betting space. I think you're up like 17 or 18 units this month, which thank
Yeah.
God, because you've been saving my butt this entire month. If you want to get all Luke's plays, check out the Discord. Link is in the description, and use code NFL. You get 50% off. You get access to every single play of Luke. And if you want my plays, which honestly, I wouldn't want my plays from the past month, but we're about to hit a good streak going. It's been a brutal month, but the reads are there. We'll start hitting them soon. Check this out, though. We'll be back next Thursday, dropping a stream for you on Thursday. And as I said, we have stuff going out for NBA, NFL, college sports. Will's been crushing it. Ryan's been crushing soccer, whatever you want at wap.com/parlay-ole-bets. So thank you all. Have a great Thursday, and we'll talk to you all next week.